Hey, everybody. Welcome to Live Dream Interpretation, Live Dream Tuesdays, as we say, or Double Dose Tuesday, because we are on YouTube and we are on His Glory in the evening. Super excited to be with you all. Why don't we just pray and get started? We got a lot of people with a lot of dreams. Oh, one thing that I did want to share with you guys is we have love dreams coming up. Live dreams, but love dreams. Submit your dreams now about romance, marriage, dating, or relationships to be interpreted live on February 15th, 2022. So we're going to do a love dreams only special. That should be fun. So let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this time. We thank you for the opportunity to come before you, to seek your face, to hear from you. We thank you for your presence here. We thank you for your Holy Spirit. God, I ask that everybody that hears this broadcast at any time, and those desiring, especially those desiring more of you, God, that you would give them more dreams, more visions, a stronger remembrance of their dreams and their visions, that you would prompt them and remind them to write them all down, Lord God, that you would give them the gift of dream interpretation, that they would begin to understand, Lord, word of knowledge, word of wisdom, prophetic discernment. God, that they would have more visions and more dreams, and that they would have more of an understanding of how to interpret them, their dreams, their family's dreams, their friends' dreams, and even those, God, that you would have stand before kings and queens and leaders like Joseph did, like Daniel did. Lord God, that you would strengthen all of us. Lord, the answers come from you. They don't come from us. And so we thank you. And we humble ourselves and submit to you, Lord. And we ask that you would give us your wisdom and your discernment even today as we do some dreams together. So thank you for this time. Thank you for the privilege, Lord God, of interpreting you and your figurative love language to your children. Bless our time together in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. We got a couple of people that have been trying to get on for a while. And so I'm going to try to get those guys first. Well, let's start with Tanya.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good. How are you, Tanya?
Good. It's funny. I was watching your His Glory on a Sunday night, and I asked God, I said, I don't get any dreams anymore, but John's got some really cool people on. And I got a dream that night. So here I am. It's short, it's sweet, but I'll read it to you.
Awesome.
Okay. I was at the front door of my house because someone was outside. I yelled to my sister upstairs, and I said, there's somebody here. I looked out the window of the door and saw a golden retriever standing firm, kind of like when you're standing at a dog show, all stern, straight up, wagging its tail, very happy, staring back at me. And again, I yelled up to my sister, there's somebody here. So I went to the side door, a side window by the front door to see if there was anybody else with the dog. And I didn't see anybody. And again, I yelled up to my sister one more time, and I didn't see anyone. So I went back to the front door, and I was struggling to get on my boots. I had my left foot in a boot, but my right foot had something on it like a slipper, and it wouldn't go in the boot. And then I was just struggling and trying to force it into the boot with whatever was else. I thought it was a slipper or something on my foot. And then I woke up. And the only thing I could tell you, it's not the house I'm in now, because I don't have a window next to the door. The door itself had like a much smaller window that I was looking at. And the golden retriever was the only thing in color.
Okay. Do you have a dog?
I have two.
Did it look like your dog? Was it your dog?
No. I have a French bulldog and a miniature dachshund. This was a golden retriever.
Okay. So a golden retriever and not your house.
Yeah.
And typically you don't try to put on boots with slippers on.
Correct.
Awesome. One of the things that we do is we like to do I like to do that I seek out move in a lot is to press into the anomalies. If there's something that's said that's conversationally awkward, if there's
Mhm.
something that's done that you normally wouldn't do or doesn't normally describe your real life,
Mhm.
first of all, it's one of the indicators that the dream is figurative. And so it's not literal, not your dog, not your house, not your slippers, you know.
Mhm.
And so that's really helpful in it to figure out a direction or to understand the direction of where God is going with what he's wanting to communicate.
Mhm.
Um, so I want to get the details right. You were walking into this house. You knew it was a house, but it wasn't your house.
I was already in the house,
You were in the house.
and then I was just when the dream started, I was just, by the front door, and I knew
By the
somebody
front
was
door at a
outside.
window. Did you look out the window? Did you see anything outside or?
The first thing I looked at was when I was at the front door, I was looking out the window of the door. The door had a small window on top of it, and that's where I saw the golden retriever. And then I walked around the side where there was a bigger window because I was like, "Is there somebody with this dog?" Like, and there was nobody there. And then that's when I went back to the front door, and I would put my left foot in a boot, and then the other one wasn't going in, so I had something on it that wasn't allowing me to get my foot into the boot.
Are you right side dominant?
Yes.
Okay. When you went to the side with the big window, did you
Hmm.
still see the golden retriever?
Yeah.
But you didn't see anybody else.
Nope. Just the golden retriever.
Wow, this is a cool dream.
I'm like,
So
it's
the door
very
is shut.
short, but it was just I figured I'd
Yeah,
see it. So.
it's interesting. So the door is shut, but there's a small window at the top. So you kind of peek out the small window and you see this golden retriever.
Hmm.
Did you hear anything? Did it cause you to go, or you just kind of curiously looked out the window for no apparent reason?
Yeah, I just was there, and I said, "There's somebody at the door," and I looked outside, and I see this very happy golden retriever, and I'm like,
Standing
"Well,
at attention, like waiting for something.
yeah, just like ready, like as if you were at a dog show, right? And you're in front of the judge, and it's standing like upright, that type of thing."
Yep.
Hmm.
Awesome. So looking out a window, that represents what we affectionately call the looking glass. It's kind of a throwback to Alice in Wonderland, but it's a throwback to several other things, which represents seeing into the future. It's the idea. It's also 1 Corinthians 13. Now we see through a mirror dimly or through a glass darkly. So when you're looking, and that's what you were doing, you weren't looking through a window. It was this glass pane that was in the door.
Hmm.
So the
Right.
door was closed, but you're looking out and you see a golden retriever standing or sitting at attention, standing or sitting,
Standing.
standing at attention,
Hmm.
waiting as if he's waiting for you to come out,
Right.
right? And then you go to a bigger window, go to the side to the bigger window, and you see that nobody's with him, but you still see the golden retriever.
Right.
So, what this represents is an area of your life, and I believe it's financial, where a door has been shut for you. And now God is giving you a glimpse into the future and saying that there are things that you lost financially that you're going to get back.
Wow.
So that's the point of the golden retriever. And it's obviously a very well trained dog because you said several times it's like a dog in a dog show. So this is a very well trained dog. Obviously, golden retrievers are called such because that's what they do. They retrieve things. And obviously, golden, it could have been a different color. It could have been,
Right.
God could have picked any kind of dog he wanted to. But even the name golden retriever is the idea that there's something that I feel like has either been stolen from you, held back from you, a door has been closed. It wasn't something that you could necessarily pursue. It also, I feel like it might have had something to do with maybe an inheritance or something that was contested or you lost out on or something that you thought, you had rights to. And it just didn't work out. And it got to the point where it's like, wow, there's nothing further that I can do.
Hmm.
The way is shut. And so now you're seeing first a peek into that, which is what the dream is. It's a peek into the idea that there's something waiting for you. And then you even go to the bigger window, and in the bigger window, you get obviously a much wider view of what you're looking at in the front yard. The front yard represents your future, but it represents your close future, your near future. It's not like being a 50,000 foot plane and seeing 3 states away.
Okay.
It's the idea of seeing what's literally directly in front of you. And what's directly in front of you is the help you need, literally a friend, like a man's best friend, that is waiting for you to simply open the door and walk out. And then you go retrieve the gold together.
Wow.
So I would look for that opportunity. If you don't know what it is,
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
okay, sometimes something will come to mind and people will be like, could it be this? Or a lot of times God will just quicken something to your mind and it's, I don't know. I went through a loss here or there. If you don't have any idea, just pray. God will make it clear to you. A lot of times what I do is before I go to sleep, I ask God questions. Like almost every time when I lay down, I ask him questions just to see if he'll answer me in a dream. And a lot of times he does. He doesn't always. He's a person, so he does what he wants to do too.
Right.
And sometimes I just say, hey, what's on your heart, Papa? What do you want to talk to me about? And then I go to sleep.
Right.
But I feel like this is the opening of a conversation. This dream is the view through the window in the door. So you're going to get a much wider view of what that is when you go off to the side, which will be like a sidebar conversation, different from the initial conversation. The initial conversation, again, is standing at the door. And then you'll be able to see the whole front yard. And you'll see like, well, nobody's there with them. It's just this dog. And then, you feel safe and ready to proceed. You're putting on your boots, which means you're getting ready. In Ephesians 6, boots or shoes represent the preparation of the gospel of peace. Your right side dominant, so you're having it's the right side that you have the slipper on, right?
Yeah. Well, and I wasn't really. I knew it was something. I'm not positive it was a slipper, but it was something that was not allowing me to get my foot in the boot.
Right.
Okay,
so since you're right side dominant, it's the idea that if you step out, very often you would lead with your right foot when you step out. So when you open the door and you step over the threshold of the doorpost, which represents the safety of the dwelling that you're in, you're stepping out on your right foot. If there's something preventing you from putting that boot on, then that means you're not totally ready, because it represents the readiness of the gospel of peace. And so what you want to do is find out, and again, it's just a representation. A slipper could be a slippery slope you go down in your mind where it's like, well, I tried this and God doesn't want me to have it. It must be a closed door. You get into this thinking where it's like, no, it's this is representing a new future for you. It's representing retrieving something that was lost or stolen. And I think it's a very good dream.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. That was great.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. What a great, I love it when he talks like that.
Yeah, me too. Now I'm just going to pray about what it is so that it can come,
Well, let us know if you, when you figure it out and it happens, send us a testimony. I love hearing the end of the stories,
Okay, definitely I will. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tanya.
All right. Bye-bye.
So cool. All right. Thank you guys for being with us today. I'm looking for a couple of people. Let's go with Debbie Swenson.
Hi, Swen.
Hey, Debbie. How are you?
Hi. Good.
Hi.
All right. You want me to dive right in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this dream I had about a year ago. And I really felt like I was almost wrestling with this dream. I mean, these words, and I kept waking myself up, but I would kind of go right back into it. And the dream was I saw before me like this temple or structure that was being built. And the finishing touches were like 4 big pillars, or actually they were more in the shape of like a organ pipe. And once those were put into place, it was deemed finished. And then the Lord said, for it to be finished and consecrated, I had to sing. And I do not have a singing voice. So I was arguing with the Lord and just saying, I don't think I have that gift. I kind of think you got the wrong person here. But I also, at the same time, I felt like a pressure or a obligation that if I didn't do it, it wouldn't go forward. Um, whatever the service was to consecrate it. So again, I just struggled with what I was to do. And then the words, "You are the church." And that's kind of the thing that kept repeating. And I'd kind of I'd wake up saying it, and then I'd go back to sleep, and I would keep hearing that. So that's kind of it. So I've just been kind of, I mean, "You are the church," that's kind of an obvious thing. But I wasn't sure what the rest of it meant.
Do you know where you were, like what country or city or state you were in?
No, everything was kind of nondescript around it.
Okay. So there was a temple that was being built. The last thing that needed to be put in place was these 4 columns, which were almost like pipes, like a pipe organ. And then you knew once that was put in place, to finish it completely, you had to sing. And you were a little hesitant to sing, but you felt obligated to sing because you
For
knew
good
that
reason.
for well, if you want to sing for us right now, go ahead. You know,
Show would be done.
it's interesting. This is a really fascinating dream. First of all, it reminds me of the building of the tabernacle specifically, and what happened after both the tabernacle and the temple is that the Lord, it says the glory of the Lord, came in and filled the temple. But there were things that were very, very much required to do. Like they had a particular set of plans, instructions on how to build it, what it would look like, where the poles would go on the tabernacle, where the columns would go on the temple, the rooms, everything. God was very, very detailed on how he wanted his house built. And so I think it's interesting. The question is obviously, what do the 4 pillars or columns or pipes represent? And I think it's interesting that, when you sing, if you sing really well, people are like, man, check out the pipes on that one, because you can create a sound. And so both the columns and the singing, which are the 2 things needed really to finish the structure, are about making a noise. And it's reminiscent of, somebody said that, like the walls of Jericho. Yeah, absolutely. It's like that. But this is a little bit different because this isn't a warfare call or a warfare cry. This is a come, Lord Jesus. This is come and let your glory fill the temple. Come and dwell with men. It's like a call for what people talk about as revival. It's like, come and visit us again. And I think fascinating verses are like 2 Chronicles 7, when Solomon is at night, the Lord comes to visit him. Some people say it's a dream. It doesn't specifically say it was a dream, but it may have been a dream. The Lord came to visit him at night, and this is during the dedication of the temple. And then God says, if I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain or send plague or pestilence or war upon the land, and then obviously the verse that everybody knows, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, and right before that, Solomon prays, may your eyes be open and your ears attentive to what happens in this place. And so again, what that's about, it's about the idea of God specifically coming to dwell with us. And so if there's a temple that's being built, you can build any kind of structure you want. If God doesn't show up, it's pointless. And it's interesting because I feel like, and this is not a condemnation, but I think it's an exhortation for the church today. There's been a lot of houses of worship all over this country for the last year and a half have sat empty, frankly, because of fear, But, the whole idea of people were too afraid to gather together. And then they were afraid that they wouldn't be protected. And I understand, and I don't want to, we're not opening that discussion here. But the fact of the matter is that nothing is meant in God's house because the people aren't there. And when he goes to his house, he goes to dwell with men. The whole thing of the tabernacle, it's interesting because when Moses went up on Mount Sinai, people thought he went up to get the law. The law is half a chapter. 7.5 chapters are about the tabernacle and the structure. So it's literally 15 times more of how God wants to dwell with men than about the rules or the law. And people that don't understand that don't understand love versus or grace versus the law. But what God is clearly saying is he wants to come and dwell with us. But there's some things that need to be set in place. And there's some pillars, which I think could represent 4 unique particular things. But I also think that they're about making a sound. And then when he's saying for you to sing and you representing the church, what were the words exactly? You are the church? Was that what he said?
You are the church. Yep, you are the church.
You are the church. So singing is a declaration. A lot of time when we sing songs in church, it can be a prophetic declaration. We're saying things to God. We're reminding him of miracles of the past, of the Red Sea, or do it again, Lord. Or there's so many things that are declaratory in our singing, but it's also a lot of times a level of celebration, which again is what would happen when you dedicate a temple, is you would celebrate and you're lauding how great God is, not how great the structure is, and you're inviting him to come and be with us. And so I think there's a mindset that needs to shift in the church today that God is kind of challenging us with, and it's the idea of having things set in place, having a firm foundation, having a structure that's properly supported. And by supported, it means kind of do what you say. If we're the place that's supposed to people go when they're afraid, and yet we're afraid to open our churches, we're not really doing what we say. But then it's also the finishing touch is the idea of literally declare a declaration, inviting him to come and dwell with us and do it in a celebratory way. So I think it's very interesting. I think it's very timely. I think it's a word that probably needs to get out en masse. I think it's something that people all over this country and probably all over the world need to hear. And I think it's interesting because, again, it's God pursuing us. The reason he built the temple is he wanted a way to physically dwell with man. And that's what he wants to do again. He really wants to do that again. But we have to have things in place, and he's not coming back for a defeated, helpless, fearful church. He's coming back for a church that knows who he is, celebrates who he is, and invites him to come and be with us. So, wow, that's a great dream, Debbie. That's awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing it with us. All right. Take care.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right.
Bye. All right. Flora, are you there? Is your camera working? You're muted. Oh, you don't have your
Yeah, I forgot to put them on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh,
sounds
okay.
Great.
Yeah, I don't have them on. Hi, John. How are you?
Good. How are you? I know you've been trying to get in for a couple of weeks, and we finally got you. So
yeah, thank you. I'm a newbie here, so
all right.
Yeah, we appreciate you, John. You're doing great service to the Lord.
Oh, thank you. It's our privilege to be here for you guys.
So hold on one second. Okay. I'm gonna read my sister's dream. It's not my dream, it's my sister's.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to do that through the phone. Hold on. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start reading it. Can you see me or can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you.
Because I'm in the phone, so I have to change the screen to
Okay.
So I can read it. All right.
Well, when you're done reading, come back so we can see it too.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. So, my sister was my younger sister. She was at a beautiful ballroom event. Above the ballroom, upstairs were hotel rooms. and she had a room on the third floor. In the ballroom, everyone was dressed in red, including herself. There were mostly women there, some wearing pantsuits and others dresses. She, in particular, was wearing a pantsuit. The tables were numbered like you would see in an organized catering dinner party. And her table had a number 6 on it, printed in black on a number card. Now, our middle sister, her name is Elva, was there concerned about something, and she started complaining to the waiters about the napkins. Then my youngest sister went upstairs to her room and noticed other ladies from the ballroom on her floor getting in their room. She knew they were from the ballroom because they were dressed in red.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went in her room and saw a crib, a baby crib.
A baby crib. Okay.
Yes. And she walked towards the bathroom door and saw there were boxes around. And once she was in, she saw more boxes inside the back of the bathroom, and they all seemed organized. Then she saw a toilet and tried to use it but couldn't go. When she got up from the toilet, she saw that the toilet was full of small toys. And she said to herself, that Gabriela, referring to my 2-year-old granddaughter in real life, she must have put those toys inside the toilet.
Is that it? Can you hear me, Flora? I think I lost you. Flora, can you hear me? Yeah, I think I lost you. Let me know when you come back and put your face. Oh, there you are. Can you hear me?
Are you there? Oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? And put your face. I couldn't hear you. Hopefully you can hear me, but let me see if I can pick you back up. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Put your face. I couldn't hear you. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. Well, we're just going to have to go on what we have. Super interesting dream. The idea of being in a ballroom, the idea that there's hotel rooms above the ballroom, third floor. I believe that represents the third heaven in this case, literally like a heavenly dwelling, a place where people can go. They don't live there, but they stay there temporarily. A hotel and hotel rooms represent a lot of times a temporary place, a place of transition, which is super fascinating. The ballroom obviously is a place where you go to celebrate. And especially Flora had said that there were ladies in red dresses. And when they were on top of, when they were on the third floor, she saw, her sister saw them going into their rooms. And she knew that they were part of what was happening in the ballroom because of the red dresses that they were wearing and they were a part of. So I think it's interesting that not only was the dreamer down in the ballroom and seeing what was happening, the celebration. A lot of times you think of like an actual ball or a reception or even a wedding reception. Those are the type of things a lot of times that happen in ballrooms. And to have hotel rooms upstairs a lot of times makes it like a weekend event, almost like a destination wedding or something where people go and they celebrate, but then they also stay obviously and spend the night. So that's really interesting. When the dreamer went into the hotel room, she found that there were a bunch of boxes, particularly in the bathroom, that were neatly stacked. And to me, that reminded me of moving boxes, the idea of a place where you would go in and decide that, okay, I'm going to live here. I wanted to kind of, if you bring all your stuff with you, typically you don't bring boxes to a hotel room, right? So that's an anomaly. If you are moving, you keep your boxes in the car and in the truck, and you take your suitcase up to the hotel room with you. But to have boxes neat and organized represents the idea that somebody is wanting to move into a place that is meant to be a place of transition. And in particular, I feel like not only is this a place of transition, it's a place of glory, and it's also a place of visitation. The third floor representing the third heaven, going up and receiving revelation from God, particularly in the night hour, because what do you do in hotel rooms, right? You sleep. And so it's the idea of being in a place where you're receiving revelation from God. Not that dreams are second heaven or third heaven or any heaven. Dreams come from the third heaven. Dreams come from the Lord. They come from God, and we know that. But it's the idea of having a place of visitation and being structured in such a place. Now, this person, the dreamer, is indicative of the idea that she wants to move there because of all these boxes that are there. But it's also interesting that there's a toilet in there. And so she wants to try to use the toilet, and she tries to, and it doesn't work. She can't. And then she sees the toilet is full of toys. And I heard toy-let, like let's play, kind of an invitation thing. Like, this is a container for toys. It's not a place for dumping. And that's what I thought was interesting is, and there may be more to the dream that we haven't received or heard, but so far, let me see if I can bring Flora back on. Hey, can you hear me? You're muted.
Sorry. There you go. Yeah.
Hey. Did you hear what I said? Did you hear everything I said?
Yeah, some of the stuff.
Okay.
I'm going to have to look at it later,
Sure. Was there any more to the dream besides the toys in the toilet?
Yeah, well, she saw the toys in the toilet, and then she heard a siren outside the window by the bathroom. And she looked out the window and she saw police cars. Mm-hmm. And then she said out loud, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. And that was the end of the dream.
It's a fascinating dream. It starts in a place of celebration, in a place of, where there's this ballroom that's going on. You mentioned ladies in red dresses.
Right.
So it's a place of opulence, extravagance. It's an invitation only type of thing, typically. A lot of those events you think of wedding receptions or balls or receptions of some kind. She goes up to the third floor, which is where she's staying. The third floor, I believe, represents the heavenlies, right? It represents being in heaven. But a hotel room is a place where you go to sleep. So I believe it represents encounters, particularly in the night hour. And the boxes there represent the idea that she loves that so much. It's like she wants to move in. Like, typically you don't take boxes to a hotel room. If you're moving, you take your suitcase up there, but you leave the boxes in the truck or the car. The idea that there were boxes neatly stacked there are almost like somebody's trying to move in, right? And then there's a crib, which I think is interesting because it represents the idea of something that's already been birthed that you're taking with you. Again, if you could have a nursery set up in your house, meaning you're getting ready to birth something, or you already have birthed something. But to have a crib in a hotel room, you're not going to be there long enough to birth something. So it's the idea that there's something that's already been birthed. And then what happens in the restroom, I think, is really interesting. She goes to use the facilities. It doesn't work for her. And then she finds that the toilet is actually full of toys. I saw that as an invitation to come and play. A place that normally we would think that we go to cleanse or purge or dump, which is what a lot of people, I think, when they think of rest, they think, I just need to go to sleep. I need to get something off my mind, or I'm feeling depressed or upset. I'm just going to go to sleep. And so they look at their dream life and their sleeping life as a way of kind of cleansing bad thoughts, negative energy, whatever they want to call it, just stuff from the day. They want to get rid of it. And so they want to go to sleep and forget and then wake up and start afresh. And what God is saying is, no, this is a place like, let's play. This is a place that's filled with toys, in this place that she wants to move into, where she's going to take something that's already been birthed. So it's the idea that God has some instructions for her on how to handle things related to move, related to job, related to something that she's birthed. But in particular, he wants to capture her heart and for her to come and play with him.
Wow.
And in the midst of that, she sees or she hears the sirens. And so she immediately thinks that she's in trouble, and then she has to even say out loud, I didn't do anything. Almost like, and what I believe it is she's in this place that she has access, and she doesn't realize she has access. And so she feels like, man, I don't even know if I'm allowed to be in here. And then she hears the cops coming and she's like, whoa, they're coming after me. And I feel like what God wants to let her know is that she has access. Not only does she have access, she has an invitation to come and play. And so, you can go to church and you can gather with groups of people and you can have a glorious moment, incredible worship and all of that stuff. But after that, you go home or you go to a hotel or wherever you are and you go to sleep. And God is calling her into a deeper level of her dream life where he wants to play with her. He wants to, give her revelation, give her instructions, seal his instruction on her heart, as it says in Job. And he wants her to know that it's okay for her to be there, that she has access and she has accessibility to him in that place. And so this dream is an incredible dream. It's a dream of invitation. It's a dream of God pursuing the heart of your sister. And I think it's fascinating that God chose to speak to her this way.
It's amazing you say that, because I had a dream a few months ago about her as well. And I think it was a godly dream. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that. But I wanted to ask you, I didn't hear the part of the ballroom and everyone dressed in red and the number 6, the table, and my middle sister, Elva, her name is Elva. I kind of believe that means something, her name.
Yeah. Do you know what her name means?
You know what? I looked it up a while back, but I can't remember what it means, because I also had a dream about my middle sister, and I believe God was trying to tell me something with her name. And my middle sister was pregnant in my dream. But now, in my younger sister's dream, she saw my middle sister as well, but complaining. She was complaining about the napkins to the waiters in the catering in the ballroom.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, Elva means white, which in this case would represent purity, particularly of something that you're wearing to, I know everybody was in red, but red to me just represents the idea of, like the blood of Jesus. Like everybody is dressed the same, meaning they've all been dipped in the blood. They all belong to the same family. It's all part of the same type of thing. It's, like you go to certain balls and it's black tie only, it's black and white. They don't want people wearing red dresses. They don't want, it's, and so there's certain gatherings that have rules of what you should wear. It's interesting that her name means white because, it says in Revelation, to him who overcomes, I will give them a white robe and a white stone with a new name known only to them. So the idea that Elva means white represents the idea of an identity that she has that's been given to her by God, which I think is fascinating. And in a sea of red. Now, the number 6 is really interesting as a symbol too, because 6 is man's number. The Bible says it's man's number, right? And so, and it's also interesting that the bedroom or the hotel room is on the 3rd floor. Presumably, the ballroom is on the 1st floor. That's typically how it works in hotels, right? You're at a place where, again, you're in a temporary place. You're not in a place that you're going to stay really long, typically. But the celebration is happening on the earthly level or the earthly realm. But what God is saying is he's inviting her up into the heavenly realm, especially at night as she sleeps. He's saying, come up and let's play with me. And she's wondering, do I have the access to be in here? Or am I going to, when she hears the sirens, she's like, I didn't do anything wrong. And so God is saying, yes, you have access. You have the ability to access me, for me to encounter you in your dreaming life and in your sleeping life. And so, yeah, I think it's I think it's fascinating. There's so much, we could spend another half hour on this dream for every single symbol, but that's, what she needs to know is the dream is an invitation for her. And,
Awesome.
God is inviting her to come and play, and the boxes are there because it's a place of habitation. Now, again, typically you don't move yourself into a hotel, but if you go into a hotel and there's boxes there, a lot of times they can be like packages or presents that are waiting for you. And think about people in movies in particular. They walk into a hotel room and there's Christmas, everything's decorated for Christmas and there's all these presents. And that's when somebody like went way over the top to prepare a really special place of opulence for another person. And that's what I feel like God is wanting to say, is that I have an extravagant place prepared for you, and I want you to come and encounter me in this place, and you have access to be here.
Okay.
So leave behind the man realm, the earthly realm, the, where everybody else is, and come up and spend some time with me.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
I love that dream. Such a cool dream.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Flora.
Yeah.
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
God bless.
Thanks. Bye-bye. All right. Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Rebecca Feather. Are you with us? Is your camera on? Oh, looks like she's having a problem loading up. So we will. All right. Say Joanne Lopez.
Hey.
Hey there. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good.
I'm very excited to have you interpret my dream. I didn't just hear you.
I said I'm excited to hear it.
Okay, good. Okay, so I was riding on a motorcycle or a scooter. I think it was a scooter. And I'm just arriving home at my beach house. It looked like a private Malibu beach house or something. The sand was pretty. I noticed the ocean and the greenery. It was like shrubs around the perimeter of the yard. And I began to walk towards my house, but I never saw the house. And I turned and I noticed my dog was looking for a place to go to the bathroom. And I made the comment that, yes, I was sure he had to go after such a long trip. And so now the scene changes and I'm at the door to my house, but it was a big steel door like you would see at a warehouse, a big, huge, really tall, big steel door. So I'm unlocking this door, and as I'm unlocking it, the neighbor's dog gets inside. It was a little, like a little white poodle or something. The other dog, the one that was going to the bathroom, was white with tan patches on it. Neither one looked like my real dogs in real life. And so I'm unlocking the door to go inside. This dog, the neighbor dog, gets in, and I hurry up and get the dog out so it doesn't fight with my dog. And so now I'm inside the door, but it's not a house inside. Instead, it looks like a stairwell. I'm actually in a stairwell, and it was concrete ground, concrete wall, and concrete steps going up with a like a metal handrail. And my little dog was at the bottom of the steps waiting to go up there with me. And that was the dream.
So this was taking place at at your beach house.
Like yeah, but I don't have a beach house.
Okay. So it wasn't a place of real habitation for you.
No.
Okay.
No.
But it was a place like Malibu, like West Coast.
Like you would picture just a private beach area, the green grass, really luscious lawn. I saw the ocean. It was like a cliff kind of thing looking down out onto the ocean. Really beautiful setting.
Okay, cool. And you said you didn't see the house. You were walking towards the house, but you didn't see it, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you went into the house, right? And the house looked like a stairwell. Now tell me about the dogs again.
So the dog that was looking for a place to go to the bathroom, it was kind of small, like maybe a beagle type of dog. It was white with tan patches on the lower back, on his lower back part. And the other dog, the neighbor dog, was just a little white, little yippy dog, like a little poodle or something.
Okay. And
I
neither
have
of
two
these
big
dogs are
black
real.
dogs.
Say again?
I'm sorry? I have two big black dogs in real life.
Okay. So neither of these dogs are your dogs.
Correct.
Was the stairwell, were you at the bottom of the stairwell going up like a lighthouse, or was it like going down like a tunnel underneath the ground?
It reminded me of what you would see if you were maybe at a hospital or something. Like if you take the stairwell, the platform, it was like I was on solid ground. It was like the platform was about 2 or 3 feet wide and about 4 or 5 feet long. So the doorway I walked into was actually at the far left side. And so I'm over here, and then it was probably about 4 feet long, and the stairs were at that end going up.
Going up. So you were at the
Going
bottom.
up.
Okay.
I was still at the doorway, and my dog was at the bottom of the stairs waiting for me to go up with him.
Is your favorite place the beach?
No, I'm more of a mountain girl.
A mountain girl. Okay, that's interesting. So you like to get up high and look around.
I like more of a private, more like a log cabin kind of up in the mountains, hidden away kind of thing.
Okay. Now you didn't see what kind of structure this was at all. You didn't see the outside. You just saw it from the inside.
But what I did see, as I was unlocking the door to go inside, I kind of turned as the little neighbor dog was coming in. I kind of turned, and I noticed like a covered patio that was my neighbor's yard. That's how I knew that it was the neighbor's dog. I don't know if that's significant or not, but it was like a covered patio you would see in their backyard.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I feel like the idea of being at a beach is like a new place. The thing about the beach is because of high tide and low tide and the waves that come in, it's literally a place of constant refreshing and newness. So that's one thing that a beach represents. So you're on the what they call the left coast. If it's reminiscent of California, it's the idea of being on the west side, which is also the side towards the sunset, facing the sunset. It's a great place to watch sunsets. Used to live on the West Coast, and so you can see some incredible sunsets. And places like Malibu is one of my favorite beaches on the West Coast to hang out at. And so
I live in North Carolina.
Say that again?
I live in North Carolina.
Oh, other than North Carolina, okay. So the idea that there's a house that exists but you can't see is really interesting. It's fascinating. It's also fascinating that the house is on a beach when you prefer, if you were going to have your druthers, you'd rather be in a cabin in the mountains. Okay, so this is an invitation again to a new place for you. And it's not necessarily a place of your own choosing. It's also an invitation to go up, which means to go higher. It represents the idea of promotion. It also represents the idea of an enhanced seer gift, because of course, the higher you are, the more you can see, or the further that you can see. So it represents a place of refreshing and a place of opulence, because like you said, it's got the manicured lawn and the lush green grass and the sand. And then there's this house that you don't see. So there's something happening that you don't see or you haven't perceived yet. And so a lot of times what God will do is to introduce something brand new to us, he'll give us a dream. And that like opens the door for us to begin to see, maybe God is calling me higher. Maybe he's asking me inviting me into a deeper level of the seer gift or something like that. And they haven't thought about that. People haven't thought about that before. So the idea of the dogs is really interesting though, because, dogs are often called a friend or man's best friend or whatever. So you have this yippy little dog that's with you, and then you have the neighbor's dog that's kind of coming over to want to go to the bathroom or something, right? Was that what that?
My dog was going to the bathroom. The neighbor dog got into the house or whatever, and I was afraid that he was going to fight my dog, so I got him out of the house before he could fight with my dog.
Interesting. So your dog is marking his territory. So it's the idea of having a friend, or a lot of people, especially dog owners, feel like their dogs are family, right? So it's the idea of a family member coming in with you. So it's not just an invitation for you. It's an invitation for family or for somebody that may be close to you, even though it's not representative of your actual dogs. That's why we know it's not about a dog, right? It's about somebody that has the characteristics of the dog, somebody that's small, somebody that's yippy, somebody that wants to mark their territory. And then you have this other friend, which is the neighbor's dog that wants access and actually comes in and gains access. And you're like, no, this isn't for you. You're not supposed to be here. My dog is going to come in with me, and I don't want you guys fighting. And so you get the other dog out. This can also represent, and this is really interesting, because a lot of times when I'm interpreting dreams, God will just give me a thought, and it's not a thought that I would typically think. But there's a movie, I think it's called Tomorrowland, and it talks about there's two wolves inside of us, and one is light and one is dark, and that they fight, and which one wins? The one that you feed. And what it's talking about is it's talking about mindsets. And the mindset of a yippy little dog, tends to be joyful, wants to mark his territory. It's the kind of dog that gets excited and pees everywhere, and you got to take outside, and right. And then the neighbor's dog is somebody that kind of wants to encroach on somebody else's territory and wants to gain access, but isn't the right one. It's the one that you have to kick out. So that can represent two competing mindsets, especially since you were concerned in the dream of the idea that the dogs might fight. Right. So the one dog is yours, meaning it has access. It's marking its territory. It's with you, even though it's not actually one of your dogs. It represents somebody with you. And the other one is something that's not with you, that's not appropriate for it to run into your house or to be there with your other dog. And so that's a mindset that you may need to reject, which could be something. And that mindset doesn't come from you. It comes from somebody else. It's the neighbor's dog. And so it could be somebody speaking in your ear that is filling your mind with doubt, or wanting to get you to move off of a place of being invited into this new and refreshing place, to go higher, to see things deeper in the spirit, and in this elevated place with the Lord. And so I think it's a dream of access and invitation, but it's also a dream of warning. Keep the neighbor's dog out. Take your dog with you and let him mark his territory. But be careful what your mindset is as you go into this new place, because there's some things that God wants to show you.
And so do you feel like it has to do with more of my relationship with the Lord, or my career? My job is I'm a caregiver. I take care of elderly people. And I was in a long season without a job. And I just started a job. This is my second week. And I believe I had this dream like a week or two before I actually started this job. And I often dream about the families and the people I'm taking care of. And that's kind of sort of ministry. But I also have a call to actually teach on a platform. And so I'm often, do you know who Andrew Womack is?
Yeah.
So I kind of study with him and stuff. And the Lord gave me a dream asking me if I wanted what he has. And I saw myself signing up on the sign-in sheet. I'm pretty sure that was an invitation to have his type of ministry and stuff, and me coming into agreement with it. So, so I'm always kind of sort of confused as to what's personal with me, what's the caregiver stuff, and what is ministry. You know, so in this particular dream, you just helped me with, do you feel like that falls into one of those, or?
I feel like it's personal in ministry. There's nobody else, and you're not taking care of anybody else in this dream. The only other two beings that you see are the dogs. One's the neighbor's dog and one is yours, and they seem fine. They're not injured, hurt, in a wheelchair, needing care. They're just out doing their thing. It's interesting, though, when you stepped in and you went inside, meaning you took the invitation, you went through the open door, you're on a platform. That's what you said. It's a platform.
Ooh, that was good. Good you picked that up. And what about the big, heavy warehouse kind of steel door? Is that significant in any way?
Absolutely. It's a door that most people could never open. So it reminds me of Isaiah 22:22, right? I will set upon his shoulder the key of David, the key to the house of David. He will open, or she will open, doors that no man can shut, and shut doors that no man can open. So if this is a big steel, huge door like a warehouse, it's probably not typically made for people. It's not a door that you just walk in and, shut and that's it. This is something massive, which means it's a massive opportunity. And that's one of the reasons why there's doors on like hangars, right? Because airplanes come in and out. It's not a door a person walks through. It's a door that a plane comes through. And so it's something that's very, very special and much bigger than just a typical person walking through a door. And so it's a door that God can open, and it's going to be a whole lot bigger than you would think. And that's one of the reasons I believe where you can't see the house, because this isn't even on your radar right now. You can't even see how big this thing is that God is going to bring you into. And when he opens this door, you're going to be like, man, there's no way I could open this door. And then when you walk through, you have to do something. You accept the invitation. When you accept the invitation, now you're on a platform. But there's so much higher for you to be able to go. There's a stairwell, which represents the idea of promotion, represents the idea of hearing God more. But I believe that this could very well be the fulfillment of some of the desires that God put on your heart.
Me too. It's kind of what I've already felt in my heart. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That really blessed me. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing your dream. That was amazing, Joanne. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you guys.
You too. Bye-bye. Wow. I love it when, let me center my chair a little bit. I love it when God shows up like that. That's just amazing. There's so much that he wants to convey, to his people, that he's waiting us for just to accept the invitation. And wow. All right, let's go with Pam.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Great to see you.
You too.
Okay. I better put my glasses on. I received this dream on December 23rd of last year, 2021. I was on the grounds of an estate, a luxurious home, reminding me of a sprawling old country club. Marvin and I were going to have guests later that day for a barbecue. I did not see Marvin, and as a point, Marvin is my late husband who died in 1993. The next morning, there were people in the kitchen, and I wanted some bacon, so I put the bacon on a normal-sized outdoor grill. I sat in a white Adirondack chair under the awning with my feet propped up, but stretched out in front of me. I checked on the bacon, but barely lifted the lid. It still looked uncooked. The grill was still on, but the temperature so low, nothing could cook. A very friendly white and brown dog was running around and playing alone. I noticed another grill further down in the backyard, like you were going to have a buffet. The grill was huge with 3 lids, event size. There was a lot of meat, all fully cooked, but prepared the day before. The grill was very deep. Excuse me. Under the left lid was 12 perfectly cooked chickens, and behind them a small cooked pig standing up, and another cooked animal to its right. Under the right lid was 12 cooked chickens. I knew there was cooked meat under the larger middle section, but only briefly saw it. I wonder why Marvin didn't take care of the food yesterday. I didn't want anyone upset about the loss of the meat, so I started to put the chickens in a black garbage bag using long tongs, and they were so tender they broke apart. But then I stopped and said to myself, let them take care of it. I took the couple of chickens out of the bag and put them back on the grill. I knew even though all the food looked like it could be eaten, it was spoiled and had to be thrown out. End of dream.
Wow. So where were you?
I was on an estate. I was at, it was, and I said it looked like a
Looked like a
luxurious
country
home,
Was
like
it
the old type
like a
of country
country
club,
club?
you know.
Yeah. Was it your house?
When I looked at it, I think it was,
Okay.
but it wasn't really my house. But I mean, in the dream, I believed it was my
Right.
house.
So it's not the house you live in now, but it's a
No.
house that would be like a
Mhm.
mansion that you would love to live in. Just a
Mhm.
really opulent,
Right.
incredible place. Big.
It was big.
And Marvin's there with you.
Well, I didn't see him. I had the sense he was there.
Okay,
I
interesting.
didn't see him. He didn't say anything. And he's been gone almost 30 years.
Yeah. Wow. So you went out the back, and did you go out the back to cook the bacon?
Yep.
Okay. And the bacon was on a grill. You lifted up the lid to check on it. Very low heat, not being cooked. This is an issue, right? And then you see several other grills further down, and you open them up, and there's like meat fully cooked, 12 chickens, a roasted pig, another 12 chickens, right?
Right.
2 sets of 12 chickens.
Yep.
And a roast pig. Wow. How do you feel about a career in politics?
That's what I thought too.
Well, the number 12 obviously represents, like the 12 tribes of Israel. It's the number of government. The pig, I heard like pork barrel politics.
Oh.
And the idea of all of this stuff that's been prepared that nobody's taken care of, that's now gone to waste, is the idea that we got to pick this up and throw this out. We literally need to clean up what's happening here because it's creating so much waste. The idea that Marvin is with you, I think, is a fascinating symbol, because I feel like, and this is just what I sense prophetically, like there may have been a conversation that you guys had that could be related to something like a career in the public sector, and he was supportive of you.
We were pastors. We pastored for a long
Really?
time. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you ever talk about the idea of going into government or politics or the public sector beyond ministry?
Not really.
Okay. Was he really supportive of the things that you did in ministry?
Absolutely.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like I don't feel like the spoiling of the food was his doing. It's also interesting again that you didn't see him, so I don't feel like that it was something that he was responsible for. But I do, yeah, I had the same thought, Cody, the idea of the house being like your house in heaven, an idea of abundance. And of course, that would certainly explain the idea of Marvin being there. But I don't see the idea of wasted food fitting into the idea of heaven. So I think it's interesting. I see wasted food, particularly a roasted pig and 2 sets of 12 chickens, fitting into the idea of our current political atmosphere, particularly in this country, but not just this country, around the world. And I feel like 2 sets of 12 chickens represent both sides of the aisle.
Me too.
People are afraid. They're operating in fear. They don't want to rock the boat. They just want to keep the status quo. So Republicans are afraid to do what's necessary to put us in a better position. Democrats are kind of just off in their own world, doing their own thing. And it feels, I think, to a lot of people in the country that there isn't anybody in Congress or in Washington, D.C. that's fighting for us. It feels like they're fighting for themselves. It feels, even with the stock stuff that's come up recently with all of these, you have a career, you start out broke, you have a career in public service, and you end up having net worth of hundreds of millions of dollars. It's totally the idea of fraud, pork barrel politics. And we've seen this, and there's been, stories that have come out about the way that certain speakers, in the corporate or the congressional setting, people that, go up to the microphone and talk on a regular basis, names that we would know, have used their family and their influence to gain a huge amount of wealth for themselves at the public expense. And I feel like you're seeing that, and you're like, this is such a great place, such a great setting, which I believe can also represent the idea of America. And you're like, but man, we gotta deal with this food. Like, you can't leave rotting food sitting out here. So we have the bacon here that nobody's, the fire isn't hot enough to cook the bacon. So we got to turn up the bacon so we can eat today. But all this food that we made for yesterday is literally just going to waste. It's wasted opportunities. It's, it reminds me of like unfunded mandates the federal government will put on, cities and states. And a lot of it is like, if you think of the amount of money, if you look at what's happened in the last year and a half, and how everybody said things like follow the science. And then they said, well, here's what we believe the science says. And then there were other groups of people that says, no, we don't believe that at all. And now coming to find out that the other groups were right. And since they were right, I wish somebody would tally up the amount of billions and billions of dollars that were wasted on things that didn't help, things that they probably knew from the get-go didn't help, things that people would, wave their hands and said, we don't want to go down this road. We don't need to mandate this. We don't need to mandate that. We're wasting billions and billions and billions of government dollars on non-solutions. And at the end of the day, they're all wasted efforts, and they haven't kept anybody safe. And that's the thought that comes to mind. I'm not judging either side. People can think for themselves, do their own research. I'm not telling people how to think. I'm just interpreting your dream. But particularly as of late, both sides of the aisle, the pig itself represents just, the government pork barrel politics that has been consistently going. I think we're more aware of it than we've ever been, but it's in every part, from foreign aid to everything that they put in these huge omnibus bills, these infrastructure bills that have absolutely nothing to do with infrastructure whatsoever at all. And the fact that there's no accountability and nobody's cleaning up the mess. And so you're like, you know what? Somebody needs to do it. And initially you start doing it. And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to let them clean up their own mess. Right? And that's how it ended.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if it was that I figured out that one person couldn't do it. It was going to have to take everyone to do it, to clean it up. That was kind of my take on that part.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think so. But I think it needs a leader. I think it needs somebody that's going to come in and say, okay, guys, we're going to clean this up. And I think part of cleaning it up, unfortunately, is going to be to go down the road of exposing further corruption and bringing it all to light again. That's lifting up the lid, right? And discovering what's under there. And it's happened so many times. And the problem is it's happened so many times recently with stuff that wasn't real. Oh, this is a big major crisis, and the media's thrown stuff down our throats that 2.5, 3 years later we find was a massive nothing burger, and there was no wrongdoing, and it was a complete vendetta against one person or one family or one side of the aisle. And what's happened again is, I wish congressional oversight committees, when they go down the road of investigating things that they know they have no basis investigating, I wish the congressman had to pay individually, personally, out of their pockets, the $25 million or whatever that it takes to investigate somebody that they just don't like, but there's clearly no wrongdoing at all. And this is the idea of them cleaning up their own messes. I think we need to change some laws in this country. I think when you hold a group that has a market share cornered on things like, maybe medical supplies, that is above being sued for their stuff, when it malfunctions, when it doesn't work, and when people die, but you can't blame us, even though you don't have a choice if you want to keep your job on whether you use this medical device or not, that's a problem. And those companies, they need to clean up those messes, and they need to be held accountable. But it's going to start in changing our elected legislatures, both at the state level, at the national level. And it's going to start with a reboot of people that are going to stand up, people like yourselves, pastors, citizen politicians, citizen leaders that are going to say, you know what, enough's enough. And we're going to run for Congress, and we're not going to Congress to get rich. We're not going to Congress to stay for 50 years. We're going to Congress to kick everybody else out and have some rules that make sense in this land. And we're going to clean up this mess, and we're going to help them clean up this mess. And part of them cleaning up the mess may mean they never get access to the grill or the food again, frankly. What do you think?
Sounds good. We're ready to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is you were the one that lifted up the lid on the grills and saw the waste that was happening. So that could be the role of a whistleblower, or that could be the role of, again, an oversight committee or some level of investigation. That could also be the idea of taking on a position of governance yourself and being there specifically because you believe that there's something that's going on with these grills, and you're the one that's going to be able to bring it to light, and you're going to organize the cleanup. So I feel like there's something that God has for you related to what's happening in America today. Now, it could be just being a voice, but it could also be running for office. So I think you should prayerfully consider that, see what resonates with your heart, what your desires are. And, I think God has some great, great plans for you still.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pam.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Wow. All right. Mara Suzanne. Did I say that right?
Mary Susan.
Mary Susan. Wow, I made it way more difficult than it had to be, huh?
That's all right. Thank you. I'm excited to be on here. This is the first dream that I've written down, and it was just from a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. So,
just for a little bit of background, I'm not working right now. My profession is a nurse, but I'm not working. And in the past, I was a teller. And in this dream, it talks about me being a teller. So I had gone back to work, but I was working at a bank as a teller. In one scene, I was at a branch that didn't seem busy. It was dark outside, and I didn't have access to unlock the doors. I was being trained. I was able to talk to one customer, but not able to help him as a teller. Then I recall being at another branch, a large branch, and I had the feeling that the fact that I was working there meant that I was good at my job. I didn't see myself actually working, but I went into the bathroom there, just into the bathroom and back out. I saw the area where I would be working, like where the teller stands were. And then I was outside of the building. I don't know if it was the back of the building or if it was the side of the building. But I was outside, and everything there seemed very professional and modern. Even the teller stations were made up, like the trim was metal and the what would normally be wood or whatever was glass. So then I saw myself walking to my car. It was in a lot that was adjacent to the building. It wasn't right outside the building. I was talking and laughing with other people as they were walking to their cars as well. And it was really sunny and nice outside. Then the next thing I know, I was in a different area that reminded me of an airport. because it was like a long corridor with groupings of chairs, but it, it wasn't actually an airport. I wasn't at an airport. But I was with a woman that in the dream I knew her, but I don't actually know who it was. She was going through some classes that were giving her better opportunities, and she encouraged me to do it as well. I remember feeling apprehensive, but I started taking the classes. In the first class, I seemed to be good at it, whatever it was that we were learning. And I just remember that the seating of the class was like desks that would be in a school, like 8 desks maybe, that were like individual desks that were pushed together. We were facing each other in a little rectangle.
And that's different than the seating that was like at the airport, right?
Right. Yeah. We moved away from that to another section in that same large corridor area and sat down at these desks facing each other and started learning.
Okay. So the first bank you went into was kind of a smaller bank, right?
Yeah.
And you were going to be a teller there.
Yeah.
And then you went into a bigger bank and you went to the restroom and you went over by where the teller station was going to be, but you weren't actually working. And then you went outside, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now you said, I saw myself in the dream. Now you can be first person where you're seeing the world through your eyes, or you can be like an angel on your shoulder, like 12 feet above, where you're watching you walk to your own car as if you're watching a movie of yourself. Which one was it?
Well, I don't think I was seeing myself. I just experienced myself walking to my car.
Okay. So I was seeing through your own eyes and
right. Yeah.
all of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is super interesting. It's figurative, but it is talking about several new and I believe transition points in your life. First, it's changing careers. Going from being a nurse in real life to being a bank teller. But it's also a play on words. The idea of being a teller represents the idea of being in a speaker role, particularly and perhaps in a speaker role that has to do with handling money. So that could be teaching about crypto, or, I don't know, it could be any number of things that, would be kind of like outside what you would think is way outside of your box and what you've been trained to do professionally and what you think you would do. But when we go through times of crisis nationally, a lot of times it does that. It has people look completely outside of what they thought they were going to always do forever. And so this is an idea for you to utilize another gift set I believe that God's given you. So it has to do with either handling money or public speaking or both. So it starts at a small scale, which is you go into a smaller bank, but very quickly you end up in a much larger place, which is the idea of, in larger tent pegs. It's the idea of promotion. It's interesting too, because when you go in there, you're not really working. You go in there to work and you're going to work there. But what you really do is you go back, you go to the restroom, you go to the secret place inside of this new institution that you're going to be a part of, which to me represents the idea of two things, particularly the idea of the secret place, though it can be a restroom, can also represent the idea of seeking the Lord and wanting to know his desires for you. The other one is an identity check. It's a lot of times women will go in and they'll check their makeup in the mirror, right? It's the idea of self-reflection. So it's the idea of wanting to know what is my identity and what does God want for me is the question you're asking when you're in this new, much larger promoted place where you're either public speaking or dealing with money or both. And then you go outside and then you're walking to a lot, but it's not right next to the building. It's like one over, right? So it's not like the parking lot out front of a bank like you would think. It's something that you have to walk a ways to. It's like on a different lot. And it's the idea that it represents it represents a different lot. Like your lot is different your destiny, your purpose is different. You're walking away from something and you're going to your car, which can represent a vehicle to destiny, your vehicle to destiny. It can also represent your career. But I believe it more represents your destiny in this particular setting. So this is a progression. Excuse me. I yawn sometimes when I work out, and I worked out hard today. So just getting my air back. It's interesting because going from where you are in real life as a nurse, sitting on the couch, right, unemployed at the moment, to a place where you're going to be working, but in a new setting, in a completely new field, starting small and then going big, wanting to seek the Lord on where am I supposed to be and what am I supposed to do. And it's after that that then you exit that marketplace, the bank, and then you go, to a completely different lot. And it's in that lot. Do you get in your car and drive away, or is it suddenly you're in this place that's like an airport?
Yeah, it's like I just walked to the car, and then suddenly I'm at the next place.
Okay. So you walk to your car, you're at the next place, and it's a place where, if it's like an airport, are the chairs like back to back?
Yeah, some of them are, and some of them kind of create a circle, kind of an open circle, so you can face each other to talk. And I was sitting with the woman that I knew in my dream, but don't really know. And she was telling me about these new opportunities, this classes that she's in, and it was really accelerating her in her career. And she was saying that I should do it. And I was very nervous because I knew how I am, that I tend to not finish things, start out on and get a new idea, get something I want to do, and then don't follow through.
Up until now.
Up until now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Whenever you're talking about something that you want to change, I always tell people, say up until now. A friend of mine taught me that. So we say up until now. From now on, it's different. And that's what the dream shows too. It shows you, and it shows you actually like in a journey of exploration. You start at a bank, you end up at a bigger bank. You find your lot is different, and you exit, and then you're in a place of community. And then you end up in a classroom where you're in a place of training, which is interesting. So there's a lot of details, but I'm going to summarize.
Okay.
We call this the conclusive summary, and then we're going to provide you with some actionable intel. Like, what do you do in light of the fact that you're hearing about this dream, or we're hearing about this dream? So the first part is God has something different for you. He wants to use your voice, and he wants you to make money. He wants you to manage money. He wants you to have control of money. That can be you personally. It can be just about your personal life. It doesn't mean you actually have to work at a bank, but the bank, take it to the bank. There's so many phrases related to banks. It represents the idea of managing a level of financial wealth and the authority that comes with that. And as a teller, you get to declare things and say, no, this check's no good. No, you don't have enough money in your account. Oh yeah. Would you like that $1 million and, unmarked bills, a paper bag or a briefcase? You get to make these calls related to finances and money, and you're handling wealth, which means wealth is passing through your hands. It can also mean that you have a gift in this area. So obviously something is going right in the dream, because you go from a small bank to a big bank, which is simply the idea of promotion. Now you're on a much larger scale. You're either speaking on a larger scale and or you're handling wealth on a larger scale, and or both. So it's a fascinating symbol. And then you go into this place of self-reflection and wanting to hear from the Lord, which represents the restroom. You're not actually working yet, but you come out and then you go outside and you're looking to go to your car. Now, did you say you went out the side door instead of out the front door?
I didn't know if I was out the back or the side, but
Okay.
it wasn't the front.
Right. So if you don't know, then it's probably not significant. because otherwise those details could be pretty vivid. Going out the side could represent having a side job or a side gig, whereas going out the front could represent your primary thing. That's why it could be important. But you go outside, so you exit, you leave the confines of this large institution, and you go looking for your car, which your car is your vehicle to destiny again. So there's something that you want to do that sometimes making money, and for many people, making money can get in the way of what they really want to do. And so they do what they have to do to make money, but at some point they want to exit and they want to go do what's really on their heart to do. And so you find that your lot is somewhere else, which is where your destiny lies, your vehicle to destiny. So you go to that other lot. And I also think the word lot, because God could have said it a bunch of different ways, but the word lot is also indicative of a shift in you. Because you have a different lot. The shift in you is you're not Lot's wife. You finish what you start. You're not looking back. You make a decision courageously, fiercely, and boldly, and you go down that path wherever it takes you. And that's what you have to do. Is there's a transition. That's why there's a gap between where you were in the large bank and where you're going. There's this gap, which is where you shed what came before, and you say, I'm going to move forward boldly into the destiny and the purpose God has for me. So God wants you to know he's going to take care of your finances. And in fact, he may even grow your finances in this next season. But what he really wants you to do is he wants you to get to that place where you're looking in the mirror in the bathroom and you're seeing the self-reflection. This is who my identity is. And you're spending time with the Lord and you're hearing what he has for you. At that point, you don't care about money anymore because you know it's all about what he wants for you to do. And it's the purpose of your life. And so you exit the conversation, this institution that, well, we got to work for money and we got a responsibility. You're out of that whole treadmill. And now you're moving to the place of destiny. But there's a gap between where you were and where you're going. And in that gap, and the combination of what happened in the restroom and what's happening in the gap is it's having a different lot, and it's leaving behind what looked back, which is what Lot did. He left behind his wife. Unfortunately, she turned to a pillar of salt because she looked back and she hesitated and he went forward. That's why I say your lot is different. And so when you go forward, you get in the car, you're on your vehicle to destiny. Now, what happens next is critical. Because on your vehicle in the car to destiny, the first thing you do is you end up in a transitionary place of community. Whereas there's these chairs around that kind of look like almost like a circle or like back-to-back chairs, or it looks like an airport. And an airport, the chairs aren't there designed so people can relish community. They're designed to house people. That's it. They're in rows, they're facing each other, they're back to back, they're whatever. It's not a place where they're designed to, like a mixer where you want to create, like round tables you would have, right? But the next place that you go, so that's a temporary place of transition. The next place that you go is that. It's like these desks that are like facing each other. So now you're in a deeper level of community where you're seeing each other at face value and face to face, right? Like friends do. Like instead of Moses would say, I want to speak face to face. I want to see God face to face, like a man speaks with his friend, right? And so that's what you're doing. So it's in a community of friends where you're all learning and you're growing together. And I feel like God has given you literally the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps of your journey, which is absolutely fascinating.
Wow.
Don't worry about money. Get to know who you are and what he says about you. Leave the past behind you. You are a finisher. You're no longer who you used to be. You're getting in your vehicle to destiny to fulfill the call of God in your life. You're going to get a new community and you're going to learn. And then he'll show you what's next. This is a dream of direction, of destiny, of identity, and it's amazing. Wow. And this is the first one you wrote down.
Yeah. That feels amazing.
Wow.
That's a lot to take in.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah. I'm glad we record these so you can go back and and hear these again. But this is an amazing dream. I would strongly encourage you to write every single dream you ever get from this point on down. Okay. Because, it's easy to look at this dream and be like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But there's so much meat on the bone of this dream. There's so much that God is saying to you. And he sees you.
I feel like just since I've been watching you, and I've been watching the where you're teaching about the dreams in the Bible and everything. So I'm trying to learn about interpretation. And I do feel like my dreams I'm starting to dream more, and I wish I could tell y'all because at this point I don't have any idea what they mean, but I'm like, oh, there's got to be something good about this.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we're creating resources, and I'll talk about a few of those in a minute, for people that are looking to learn more. So there's things that, classes that you can take and things that you can do. But I feel like this was just like this is also an invitation. God wanted to kind of woo you and wow you at the same time with the significance of your dream life. So amazing.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary Susan, for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Wow. First dream she wrote down. That's incredible. We've designed a whole track called the Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship for people who want to know more about their dream life. But it's also for people who feel that they may have a calling on their life, like we saw in some of the dreams that we've seen today, particularly a dream, or particularly people that may have a call to stand before kings or leaders. It could be political. It could be just of your field. It could be medical. It could be entertainment, financial, whatever. But this is what we call the Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship. And we do a deep dive into several things. First, we start with the Joseph method, which is straight out of scripture. It's exact. You can read it. It's Genesis 41. And we break apart the process of how Joseph interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh. And then we teach you how to put together a dream report that we've based on the president's daily brief. Because if you're going to brief people and leaders, that they want to see stuff in a presentation of excellence. And then we teach you how to put a dossier together in Sim 2, which is to teach you how to use multiple dreams at a time to topically study or hear what God is saying about a particular idea. You can do this for a country. You could do this for a crisis. You could do this for what's happening in the world or in your own life or for a person or whatever. And in fact, we have you do a dossier on yourself, which is one of the most important intelligence documents you'll ever create, because it's taking all the significant dreams that God gave you, that he brings to your remembrance, and maybe even some prophetic words, and putting them into a document where it says, this is what God is showing me about my life. And then when we get to Sim 3, now you're working in groups of people on real world intelligence. We get dreams coming in all the time about things like what's happening in the Ukraine right now, or Kazakhstan, or what's going on in Canada, or in the United States, or the political environment, or with certain particular issues. And so we have teams of people that are studying all of these things, particularly on the basis of what is God saying in the night hour to people all over the world in dreams related to these topics. It's absolutely fascinating. If it sounds like something you want to be a part of, just you can see the ticker below. Go to spiritualintel.com. I would personally invite you. It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a challenging program. You have to apply for it. There's a form right there that you can fill out and send in. We're midway through a session of classes right now. We start the next one probably early March, but now's a good time to read up and see if it's something that would be a good fit for you. But all right, let's go with Tammy Green.
Okay, let me turn on my volume. Oh, it is on.
There we are.
Hey, so I have mostly interpreted, but there's something that I've asked God, and he just hasn't given me the exact end of the dream. So I'm going to read it and then just kind of get the thing on it.
And by the way, Tammy is part of our Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship. And so when we have somebody that knows how to interpret dreams, what we do in this setting is they tell their dream, and then I say, okay, what are you hearing? Because they want to be able to share, well, here's the revelation I got from God. And then sometimes I just add a few thoughts. But Tammy has been with us for quite a while.
Yeah. So my dream is called the casino dream. I'm in this and it was on November 25th of 2021. So I'm in this casino, but it's small and they keep moving the slots around. I'm playing on them, but I don't know if I'm winning or losing. I feel as I'm there with someone else. People talk to me and I ask where this one machine is, and she says they moved it. I decide I'm going there. I walk by this craps table and I notice it's a high stake one. There are large sums of money, certificates, and titles all over the table. I walk behind where the people running it are and I just see wealth. Then I'm somehow on the front side of the table and I ask if I can join. I don't have much in chips, but I have some. Someone says there's no open spaces. So if you want to play, someone would have to let you play on their spot. This man in a fancy suit about my age with black brown hair, very nice looking, and expels power and influence, says I can play over in his section. He's on the right back corner. I go over and say at first I want to play 7, and I start counting coins. He grabs them and I say, wait, I think they're on 10. He says 7. I hand him more, but they're small coins. But then he says 10, but I think no, it was 11. But it's fine. What's one number? I'll let him have it. Then I see this silver metal briefcase full of chips, certificates, and titles. He takes his briefcase, shuts it, and leaves it before it played out. I look down, and it's like we must have lost because everything is being cleared. I say, okay, no biggie, and I walk away. At some point, the table looks round and other times square. As I walk away, I see this large machine where you use coins to push over coins, and you have this arm switch you hit. I look at this one section and realize there's already tons of coins and cash in there, but it kind of looks like Monopoly money. The coins are gold in different sizes. Some have sections have 3 holes, and there are those ones you need to play. I put one in, and tons of cash tokens and chips just flows in. As I'm putting another coin in, the table stops, and in the center is the person running it, like the tractor game at the fair, where there are prizes and tokens, and you use coins to push things over. But there's always someone in the center. This guy who owns the place instructs the female operator to do something. I notice there's not a lot on the table, but there are now $100 black chips there. I get a little confused, but I get the impression he's trying to cheat because he's losing lots of money today. I try to put in one of my coins and it doesn't work right, and I'm trying to find the right button. I barely find it, but money still comes into my receiving area. I see he gets frustrated that no matter what happens, what struggles he throws at me, money comes in and takes away from him. That's the end of the dream. I know it's a long dream, sorry. But this is what I felt God told me, is that the dreamer feels that she is small, that there's not a big place. She's willing to play with what she has. The place she is at might not look like much, but there's a set destination in mind. To search out where she needs to be, what game she needs to play to get what's coming to her. At first, there's not a gain or a loss. It stays the same, but the dreamer seeks out the machine she needs to gain, but can't find it and asks for directions. Someone lets her know the destination was moved, so she has to find the new location. On her way, she sees a game being played. She only first has access to the back room, but then she's invited into the front. I feel that Jesus is the person in the right corner and he invites her to the table. She only has a small bit, but he knows where to put it. And one portion is his, which is 10. So 10% of 11 is 1. This table is not just about money. It's about land, power, ownership, and wealth. He has so much, and she sees a portion of what he carries, and he walks away without fear of how the end will play out because he already knows how it'll end. It'll end with the transfer of wealth to those willing to give control to him with their money and trust. When the dreamer does this, even though it looks like the game is over and lost, she carries on to the place she was looking for, comes to this machine. She knew she would gain and not lose. The spot for her was filled with wealth, and it was just waiting for her to seek it out and claim it. It feels unreal because it's just sitting there, but yet it's not just paper. It's gold coins, heavy metal, something of great worth. The middleman is just running things until the boss shows up, and he's losing. He's trying to keep her from getting it, and there's like lots of attempts to stop her, but nothing can stop it. I'm confused on the last part, the machine, because I have something coming up, but I'll wait and hear what you feel.
Well, I think this is your dream, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the biggest part is having a seat at the table.
Okay.
And initially there wasn't a place, and then a place was made.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how did you get the seat? Was it the guy that was sitting there basically let you play on his dime? Was that how it worked? Or
yeah, he took my coins and put them on his spot. So I didn't have a lot. Obviously, he had an abundance because this was a great big players table. This was something like small fry wouldn't necessarily get into.
mm-hmm.
And so he just took my coins and put them on his spot.
Yeah. So he took the little bit that you had and added it to what he already had, which allowed you to have a seat at the table and to be in a place where something significant could happen. He doesn't wait to see what happened. He leaves, but he leaves
Right.
his suitcase there, right? Or it's
no, he takes the case with him. He leaves everything that was on the table.
So everything on the table is left there. Presumably, if you win, it's yours.
Whatever was in his spot, correct? Yeah.
Whatever was in his spot. That's fascinating. And then after that, you go to basically the coin push machine.
Yes.
And tell me about that part.
So in that part, there's all there. I walk up to one spot and there's already like a ton of cash and stuff in the slot, like as if it was sitting there waiting for me to come and get it. And it's just sitting there. And then I step up to play. Some of it kind of almost looks like Monopoly money, but for me, it feels like it's just too surreal to be real. Like this really can't be real, right? Like all this money is just sitting here. But it's also not just cash. There's gold and silver and like precious like metals, right? But then the owner doesn't want all that wealth to leave. He sees how much, and he tries to change the tape, the things, and tries to stop it. So he takes everything off and puts $100 black chips on there instead, and is telling the person in the center to prevent the transfer of money into my slot, basically. And it's like it was stuck and I couldn't get it to go in, but at the last minute, I think it's like on the second or third try, I get it to go in.
And then what happens?
Money still comes into my slot.
But it's now these $100 black chips.
Now it's $100 black chips. And I'm actually in the middle of a class action lawsuit.
Yeah. I think it has to do with the class action. Is it related to that situation that I know about?
It's actually related to a pre-situation before that.
Okay.
In fact, what's interesting is I just read an article on with whom the class action suit is with, tried to get a judge to limit the amount of money that could be paid out in claims.
Interesting. Trying to change the game.
They're trying to change it. And I feel God has given me amount. I'm just trying to know. I guess I'm trying to figure out this last part, and I've asked God, and like the answer he gave me was, all I could remember from it was lawyer 3 times, or what was it? Lawyer 3 times arm, something like that. It was just like, all I remember is lawyer 3 times an arm.
Yeah, what I hear is keep trying.
Okay, so don't take the first off. That's what I'm kind of more leaning towards.
Yeah, second, third, fourth, around there is when, the money drops.
Yeah, and God kept giving me Exodus. I don't know if this is just for me or for others, but Exodus 3, Exodus 11, Exodus 12 is all about how Moses was commanded to ask for the transfer of the wealth from the Egyptians and that he would give them favor, and that whatever they asked for, they would be given.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep asking. And on the other side, on the craps table, don't walk away from the table.
Okay.
Don't leave anything on the table.
Okay.
And
yeah. I feel like it's astronomical amount that God wants to give me, and to not be deterred by what others say.
Yeah. Like you can't even afford the ante to sit at the table, let alone what the prize winnings from that table would be. And the guy that left, it's nothing to him. He's like, whatever, I got my briefcase. I feel like this also may have to do with the movie project.
It very may have to. I didn't see that part of it because I'm, in the middle of this class action suit with a first offer coming through soon.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've been a part of movie projects before, and a lot of people would say a movie project is a crapshoot, particularly if you're looking at an investor side. But it also provides you a level of voice and influence, which is literally a seat at the table, and a table that you couldn't necessarily afford to be.
No.
Like it's not something that you're going to be in positions where you're like, how the heck did I get here? It's because somebody heard your story and said, you have a story to tell. You have a little bit, but we're going to put that with ours. And now you have a seat at the table. Okay. And that seat at the table, I believe, is going to bring you great wealth. But even more importantly, it's going to bring you a seat at the table, which is a level of influence with major, major players. Like, people are going to know if you do what we've talked about, people in very high places are going to know who you are, and they're going to know your name, and so that's the seat at the table that you couldn't necessarily afford, because you can't buy that kind of influence,
No.
And
which I know God's preparing me for.
And I think the transfer of wealth is part of it. I think it has to do with both the class action lawsuit and the film project. So in both of them, don't walk away from the table and don't stop trying. The first one is easy. You just walk up, hand your, the little that you have, the guy puts it on his number. 7, of course, is a number of completion. 10 is also a number of completion. 11 is a number of alignment. And so those are 3 different, you could do a study on the 3 different things that you're waiting to happen with your seat at the table. And then from there, you go into the slot thing, which is it's a smaller game compared to the seat at the exclusive invite only high roller craps table.
Right.
That's just going to be icing on the cake. Okay. And so I believe that the real destiny and purpose moment is what's happening at the seat at the big table and the favor that you're going to get there. But incredible.
Right.
Dream.
Which makes sense, because I had behind scenes, I could see things behind scenes that needed. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
And when they try to change the game on you, don't walk away. Just sit there.
I won't. I'm
get the increase either way.
All
right. Wow. Thanks, Tammy. Okay. Mary. Hi there.
Hello. Hi, John. How are you?
Good. Thank you for your patience. I've been around a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm going to get straight down to it. I think that I left off part of the dream, but it was the first part was really short. So this dream I had, and I think I had it just before Thanksgiving. And I wrote it down 11/8/21. So I had this dream. I had heard the news that there was going to be a shortage on food. And I remember calling my daughter, Tiffany, and I told her what I'd heard. And she said, well, let's just make it easy for both of us, and we'll both go shopping together. Then as this dream progressed, I dreamed that I was a young girl, about the age of 12 and 14. And there was this 12 or 14-year-old. I saw this young girl, but I dreamed that it was sort of like me, but it wasn't me. And she was standing in the middle of the street, dancing, kind of like, but she was at a place where she shouldn't have been. She looked like she might have been a runaway. I knew she didn't belong with these guys. There was some guys standing there. So my son Ricky and my daughter Whitney, we wanted to rescue this girl. Like, she belonged to her father was like a well-known preacher, and we wanted to rescue her. She was angry with us, but she knew that we knew that she didn't belong there. So my son Ricky was driving the car that we had put this young girl in, and my younger daughter Whitney, who is also happens to be a pastor, was in the back seat with me in the car, and the little girl was in the front seat with my son Ricky. The young girl turned around over how you lean over the front seat of a car and look at the passengers in the back, and I noticed that she had these long ponytails. She looked at me, and we asked her what her name was, and she said her name was Rebecca. And my daughter Whitney, who is also, like I said, was a pastor, she turned and looked at the girl, and she said, that's interesting because that's my mom's middle name. And she says, my mother doesn't like that name. And I always said, she said that my mom thinks that name, Rebecca, means broken. And I never really cared for the name. The third part of that dream, it looked like I had traveled about 2,000 years into old Israel. And when I looked at it, this was, to me, in the dream, I could hear someone narrating. It looks like this was before the birth of Christ. And I could hear this voice of someone narrating a story about a different type of story that we knew about the Virgin Mary. This was what's being said as I watched her walk towards what looked like the temple, like she was coming up toward the temple, and she looked to be about ages 12 or 14 as well. As she came to the tabernacle and stood in front of the tabernacle, she came up to this table, which I knew it to be the table of showbread. And I looked at her looking at the breads, and there was all these different beautiful breads baked in different types of look like either gold or bronze type pans. And I could hear like the narrator, and it may have been God, but I'm not sure. But it looked like the narrator, I could hear his voice saying, Mary, let me go back to that line where it says, he said that Mary was looking at all the breads as if there was, I got to go back up there. I'm sorry. The narrator said the narrator said that Mary was highly favored before she knew she was highly favored. I looked at the table of showbread, and it had shown the most beautiful loaves of golden baked breads I'd ever seen on the table. And there were all kinds of brass oils and containers that were on there. Some had, I'm not sure if it was olive oil or frankincense or wine that was in these containers, but they were very shiny. Now Mary, the Virgin Mary, the young one, looked at the breads and asked if there was any flour left. And whoever was in charge said to her, no. And as she turned to walk away and to climb down the stairs, she knocked off one of the containers. And when it fell on the floor, it broke open. It was empty before it had fell. I knew it was empty. But Mary looked and looked down, and there fell out flour, just enough to make her own loaf of bread. And I could see the flour that was in that tin, and I could see like the seeds, like wheat seeds that had turned to scooped up. And she turned to scoop up the flour. So that was pretty much the end of it.
Wow, that's there's a lot there.
Yeah.
So the first part, you were with your daughter, right? In the very first part of the dream?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So the first part, you were with and is your daughter named Tiffany?
Yeah, my oldest daughter's name's Tiffany, and
Okay.
my baby girl's named Whitney. Yes.
Whitney. Okay. All right. So Tiffany means like revelation from God.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Tiffany means revelation from God. Rebecca means to tie or bind. And Whitney means the White Island. So I think it's interesting. We don't always look up name meanings unless God says, look up the name meaning. And we feel that it could be interesting. And as I was looking it up, you were talking about, well, we don't like what the name means and this and that. And I'm like, well, clearly the name meanings are really important in this dream. But so there were several scenes of you going back in time. So the first scene, you're with your daughter, which is like present day. And then you were a 14-year-old girl. And then you were like 2,000 years ago. Right?
Yes.
So what happened in the scene with your daughter again? Tell me that.
The scene with my daughter, Tiffany, we were looking, with Tiffany, there was a shortage of food, like present day. And we needed to rush to get food to be prepared. The second scene, I was with my daughter, Whitney, who happens to be a pastor. Was telling how I never liked my name. My name is Mary Rebecca, and how I never liked my middle name. And she says, my mom always felt like her name meant that she was broken. You know, I was referring that to myself. But then the third scene, I was like looking at the Virgin Mary, but I also felt like God was trying to tell me that I was just as favored. I don't know, but that's how I kind of felt, like I was favored, not like the Virgin Mary, but I was favored like Mary, but never knew that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Rebecca, the name Rebecca means to tie or bind, not necessarily broken. There may be another place that means in a different language or something that means broken, but Mary means beloved. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I was just writing.
Okay. I thought I might have cut out for a minute, but yeah, Mary means beloved. Rebecca means to tie or bind. And in particular, we think of just who Rebecca was in Scripture, obviously, Isaac's wife and how she was found, and how God had a destiny or a purpose that actually the result of Isaac and actually Isaac's servants pulling up to a new town at a well, and she was the one that went and got water for him and served him, and then obviously ended up becoming part of the matriarch couple that's the middle of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which I think is just fascinating. Very, very favored woman, and supernatural. Even the way that her love relationship and her romance was set up was all just done by God, and from a place of humility and servanthood, and from kind of a fleece that the servant had put out there. I mean, there's so much related to Rebecca, and there's such a rich history with the name Rebecca that I think it's definitely something that you should feel an affinity to, instead of feeling like I don't necessarily like it. Mary, though, is primary, and I believe we're named our names because God destines it to be that way. So your name, Mary, means beloved, and you think of, in particular, all of the times in in Mary's life when Jesus is hanging on the cross and he looks to John and says, basically, take care of my mom. Behold your mother, behold your son, kind of a thing. And just that, like, his parting words, some of his last words on the earth as a human being was to take care of his mother. And he loved her that much. And obviously the Mary Martha thing, for her to come and sit at the feet and not be caught up in the busyness of the day. This is all part of the destiny of who you are and who God's created you to be, And so in the first situation, there's a shortage of food, which could very well play out in what's happening right now in North America with the truckers, with the supply ships, with everything. You live in the same world I do, so you're probably familiar. There may very well be that coming into play. What I think is absolutely fascinating is God fast forwards you to another time where there was a shortage of food. And it's not necessarily mentioned a shortage of food, but that there's this container, and that the container is empty, which means a shortage. And when it hits the ground, suddenly there's the flour. And it was exactly the amount of flour needed. So first it looked like there was none, then it was exactly the amount of flour needed, which is indicative of a shortage that Mary needed to be able to bake the bread. Now, I don't know the significance of showbread, and you mentioned showbread a couple of times, but I think that certainly comes into play with the interpretation. If you know that, great. If you don't know that, I would look up what the significance of showbread is and the verses in Scripture related to what it is, particularly in the Jewish tradition 2,000 years ago.
Covenant. It means covenant.
Okay. Covenant.
Yes.
Which is exactly the same thing that Rebecca means, to tie or bind.
Wow.
So I also think it's interesting that the Rebecca scene was the middle scene out of 3 scenes. And it's your middle name.
Yes.
I feel like this is an invitation. I feel like it's about purpose and identity and destiny. I feel like God is wanting to show you some things related to who you're called to be, who he's named you to be, what your identity is, but it's also an invitation to understand that what he did for one, he'll do for another. And in this dream, since God is the author of dreams, you didn't give yourself this dream. You didn't think up this dream. It didn't come from someone. We know that God is the one that gives dreams. God is comparing you or showing you a likeness to Mary in the Bible. And so what I would do is I would take that on board as God is saying that there are things about me, could be destiny, could be just being the beloved, which could be enough, sitting at his feet. But there's things about you that are related to her, or her that are related to you, particularly related to covenant, particularly related to a food shortage, and particularly to understanding covenant, tie, bind, beloved, all of these things and what they mean. And so I feel like this is one of those dreams that God is going to want you to go and study a little bit deeper. It's interesting. We talked about on the cross, and of course, Jesus is the bread of life. And when you think of bread, you know, in the Christian tradition, you automatically think of communion as well. And so there's so much here that God is saying to you. I believe in a nutshell, he wants you to enter into a deeper level of identity and destiny with him, and also a deeper level of the beloved relationship and covenant. And so he's showing you things now, showing you things from when you were a little girl. There's something about what happened when you were 14 that God is showing. And I feel like it was a hit on your identity. I feel like something happened when you were 14 that is related to the fact that I don't like the name Rebecca because you associated it with meaning being broken. And I feel like what God is saying is, you know, I come in and I make the crooked places straight. I make the broken places whole. And the idea of covenant and tying and binding, it's the same thing of what you do when you break a leg, right? You take a stent and you tie it to the leg, you set the leg, and then the leg is set and it's made whole, and it's actually stronger than it was before it was broken. That's the idea of Rebecca, to tie or bind.
Yes.
And in this particular case, I believe God wants to set something straight that happened when you were a little girl, related to your identity. And then he wants to take you back to the depth of the identity and to show with you, who was probably, by what he said in his final words, the most important person to him on this earth, which was his mother. And he wants to relate his relationship with you and his covenant with you to that level of relationship he had physically here on the earth, which is breathtaking. So I would read everything Scripture says about Mary. I would even read on Rebecca. I would do word studies on these things. I would look into a deeper understanding of what the showbread is, what it means, the covenant associated. And there's just, it's going to be food for you. The bread is literally going to be an ongoing revelation for you to just digest. But he really has some amazing things to tell you, Mary.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
You go.
All right. Well, I wish we had more time tonight, guys. Thank you for joining us. We sure appreciate it. What a rich, rich time. I love it when God shows up and he does incredible things. Those that we didn't get to, we'll want to get to you right away at the beginning of next week. Thank you for your patience. We have just so many dreams coming in and we want to get to everybody. But thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time.